4 p.m. or just before 4 p.m. I'm waiting for a few more people to join. I know there's always a little bit of a delay before it goes live. Oh, it seems I'm live now, but I'm going to wait before starting my talk to allow a few more people to join in. You can type comments, you can say hello if you joined. I think I've got there's one person joined so far. Usually we have a few people join while it's live, but it is recorded, so if you don't watch it now, you can always watch it later. And well, you might be watching it later because it will be recorded. I normally wait a little while just to let a few more people join in though. I'm happy to say hello right at the beginning, but I won't answer questions until the very end. We've got 2 people with us now. I think I did start a little bit early. Oh, hello, Helen. First time managed to make the live. Hello. Very nice to see you. I'm glad you managed to make it live. I don't know what the weather's like where you are, but it's nice and sunny here today. I think this could be the last sunny day of the Easter bank holiday. What's it like where you are, Helen? Well, we've got a few more people joining us. I'm probably going to start, and I usually start my talks with an introduction. I'm Lucia Staza, as I'm sure you know. I write a Bad Witches blog, and I've written a few Pagan Portals titles for Moon Books. Oh, cloudy and cold, Helen saying, I'm really sorry about that. Hello, Jane. Yep, sorry it's cloudy and cold where you are. I do hope it cheers up. Anyway, yes, I was halfway through an introduction. I was talking about my books. The shameless plug. Pagan Portals Candle Magic. Pagan Portals Poppets and Magical Dolls. Pagan Portals Guided... no, that's Everyday Magic. That's a community book that I edited. And Pagan Portals Guided Visualization. So that's the end of the shameless plug. I'm going to get on with the talk now. Now, thanks very much for coming to listen to this talk, which is live on Magic for the month of April. Now, it's the 4th talk on Magic for the month I've given this year. They are recorded, as I've already mentioned, so you can watch them later. And I do use notes because my memory is not as good as it used to be, and I want to be able to remember everything that I want to say. Now, I know this is April the 1st, if you're listening to this live, but I promise I'm not going to be telling any jokes. I know I have told a few jokes on my blog in the past on April 1st, but this will be, hopefully there won't be any jokes in this one, at least not tricks. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the difference, not the difference in jokes and tricks, but a little bit about tricks and tricksters and the wisdom of the fool, and about the history of April Fool's Day. Now, the probable origin of April Fool's Day is it started in 1582 when Pope Gregory XIII's Gregorian calendar replaced the Julian calendar. And that meant that New Year's Day fell 3 months earlier. People kind of lost 3 months. Now, news travelled quite slowly in those days, so some people didn't find out about the calendar change, and they continued to celebrate New Year's Day on what they thought was New Year's Day, but that had actually become April the 1st, and they got called April Fools. However, there are some references to April Fool's type customs, like people playing jokes on each other, that predate 1582. One of them in Chaucer's story, The Nun's Priest Tale from the Canterbury Tales, that was written about 1400, and that's about 2 fools and takes place 30 days and 2, or 32 days, from the start of March, and that would be April the 1st. April Fool customs vary from country to country. In France, people who are fooled on April the 1st are sometimes called Poisson d'Avril, which means April fish. And apparently a common joke is to stick a paper fish on someone's back. I'm not actually sure what the fish has to do with April Fool's Day or April the 1st. If you know, then do leave a comment and I will be very happy to read that out at the end. In Scotland, the victim of an April Fool's hoax is sometimes called an April gowk. Do excuse my pronunciation, it might not be a gowk. I've seen it written, I haven't heard it said. But anyway, apparently a gowk is a Scottish word for cuckoo. And cuckoos start to arrive in the country in April. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about birds later. Now, generally, I think most people would rather be the trickster than the fool on April Fool's Day. The trickster is also an important figure in folklore, mythology, magic, and divination. Tricksters appear in cultures and traditions all over the world as gods, characters in stories, spirits, and animals. And they include the Norse god Loki, of course, Greek goddess Eris, indigenous American coyote and raven, and Reynard the fox from European folklore. Tricksters break the rules and use cunning to gain the upper hand. They can be serious troublemakers, or they can just be humorous pranksters. They can be the bad guys of legend, or they can be nature's clowns. But they can teach valuable lessons. In the book Trickster Makes This World, Mischief, Myth and Art, Lewis Hyde says that the trickster is one of the oldest mythological archetypes and dates back to the time of hunter-gatherers, when trickery was often needed simply to catch food. And Lewis Hyde wrote, "The trickster myth derives creative intelligence from appetite. It begins with a being whose main concern is being fed, and ends with the same being grown mentally swift, adept at creating and unmasking deceit, proficient at masking his tracks, and seeing through the devices used by others to mask theirs." Now, in tarot decks, the magician, the first trump of the major arcana, follows the fool, which is the 0 card, but the magician is also known as le batelot in the Flemish tarot, which means the mountebank. I've got the card here, I don't know whether you can see that. Now, he does sleight of hand and might be a con artist. In some cards, some decks, the magician is actually called the trickster. That's including the Elemental Tarot by Caroline Smith. Unfortunately, I don't have a card from that to show you. He plays the crowd using sleight of hand. He juggles the elements with confidence and makes a little knowledge go a long way. Essentially, the trickster is a guide or an archetype for hard times. He teaches us to turn adversity to our advantage, to learn not only how to get out of trouble, but also how to take advantage of it. Of course, the trickster doesn't always win, but he gives himself a good chance of doing so. But while tricksters can win the day, there's also value in the wisdom of the fool. Here's the fool from the Rider White deck, which is one of my favourite decks. Now, that shows a carefree young person in colourful clothing, enjoying a sunny walk out along the cliff tops, playing their own music and travelling light with just a rucksack on their back and a cute little white dog at their heels. The card offers the lure of adventure and freedom from responsibilities. It's a card of new beginnings, about setting out on a journey and not quite knowing where that journey will end, or what people or places you meet along the way. Now, some of those places might of course be dangerous, and some of those people might be rogues or tricksters, but that's life. Now, of course, a traditional interpretation for the card of the Fool is also that they might just be about to take a fall off that cliff. You can see that they're right on the edge of a cliff and not really looking where they're going. The message is that one should look where one's going and pay more attention to the dangers ahead to avoid falling off the cliff. The little dog is actually possibly giving a little bark as a warning. In some decks, he's nipping on the person's heel. Sunny days in April can, of course, seem the perfect time to set off on a journey and perhaps pay little heed to the risks involved. What I would say is be sensible. Pay attention to what risks are worth taking and which ones are not. Pay attention to your surroundings always and take care. Don't be a complete fool. Perhaps try to combine the trickster and the fool if you're out and about. I'm now going to move on to the folklore and symbolism of eggs, as many of us will be getting eggs this weekend of some kind, even if we're pagan and don't celebrate Easter as a religious holiday. For Christians, eggs are a symbol of rebirth at Easter. Now, that tradition can be traced back to at least the 4th century, when there are records of people presenting eggs at church to be blessed. However, as Professor Ronald Harton said in his really wonderful talk on spring customs to the Doreen Valiente Foundation earlier this week, the main reason that people actually gave each other eggs at Easter historically was simply that there were a lot of eggs around at that time of year. It's a seasonal food and it's in abundance. It was something that could be enjoyed after the fasting of Lent. Eggs are also, of course, symbols of birth, resurrection, and creation in religions and cultures all over the world. In the mythologies of India, China, ancient Egypt, and ancient Greece, to name just a few, gods and goddesses, or indeed all of life itself, is said to be hatched from eggs. In alchemy, the egg has associations with the 4 elements. The shell represents the earth. The membrane represents air, the white represents water, and the yellow yolk represents fire. The philosopher's egg is the name of the crucible in which alchemists attempted to make the philosopher's stone. In the book An Egg at Easter, a folklore study, Venetia Newell speculates that primitive man must have seen birds hatching from the smooth ovoids that seemed otherwise like lifeless stones, and thought that magical forces were at work. She says that the idea of the world egg as the origin of the universe and the creator of life itself could have developed from this. As well as representing creation, eggs represent mystery. They hold a secret inside that can only be revealed when the egg is opened. If you crack a boiled egg with your spoon at the breakfast table, obviously not one for the vegans, you can't be totally sure if the egg will be hard or soft, good or bad, mostly full of air, or even have a double yolk. Venetia wrote, "There are so many strange conceptions about the egg. On one hand, it's pure and sacred and the bearer of radiant new life. And on the other hand, there's a secret inside, out of which anything may come to life, good and joyful, or bad and filled with hatred." As one example, she states, at the turn of the century, that's the 19th and 20th century, nobody in High Albania dared to set an egg for hatching without first drawing the sign of the cross on it. Otherwise, some monstrous creature might creep out of it. Of course, reptiles and fish lay eggs as well as birds. Many creation myths and origin stories, as well as theories of evolution, say life came out of the water. Indeed, in some distant time, the first land-dwelling creature very likely hatched from an egg laid by something that crawled out of the sea. The universal and ancient fascination with eggs makes them a powerful symbol, which you can use in spell work and in ritual. That's especially so at this time of year, where in my part of the world many birds are nesting and baby creatures are being born. Now, also, though some birds do breed earlier in the year than April, the main breeding season for birds, for nesting birds, is from March to August each year. And April is also the month when birds that are summer visitors start to appear. I'm now going to offer a guided visualization on the theme of being in nature in April springtime and of eggs hatching. I have written it especially for this month's Magic for the Month talk. Uh, Guided visualizations are journeys that we make in our mind using a script to help us experience a story we're part of. To do this, do make sure that you're somewhere safe and comfortable, somewhere you won't be disturbed. If you aren't anywhere suitable or don't want to join in, that's fine. You can just listen along as you would a story, but don't really try to visualize it. Don't close your eyes if you're somewhere where it's dangerous for you to close your eyes, or where a lapse of attention could be dangerous. So basically, you can just listen to it, or you can kind of really visualize it and take part. Ideally, guided visualizations are best done with the eyes closed. So I'll first ask you to take a few deep breaths, relax and close your eyes. And at points in the narrative, I'll pause to let you continue the story to yourself in your own way. And that might be to visualize things as a kind of picture in your mind's eye. Or some people visualize more as just words in a story, and that's fine, however it works for you. Now, I'm just going to take a sip of water and give you time to sit down and get comfortable if you want to join in. Okay, now, if you're ready, sit comfortably and close your eyes. Take 3 deep breaths in and out, in and out, in and out. Relax and visualize the following. Imagine that you are out in nature, in a beautiful place in the countryside, on a sunny spring morning in April. There's no other human being around but yourself. You feel safe and comfortable and at peace. There's nowhere else that you need to be at this moment, and you can enjoy your surroundings. Look around you. What do you see? Perhaps there is blossom in the hedgerows, tiny green leaves starting to appear on the trees. Perhaps you see wild flowers dotting the grass underfoot. Perhaps you are near water. Perhaps there is an abundance of plants growing where you are. Do you smell the scent of flowers in the warm spring air? Listen. Do you hear the sound of birds or perhaps other wildlife? Spend a little while looking and listening, enjoying the scene. After a while, you spot a nest, and in the nest are eggs. You stop and watch from a safe distance. You do not wish to disturb the nest or the eggs, but you look at it. What kind of nest is it? Where is it? What do the eggs look like? As you watch, you notice that one of the eggs has a tiny crack forming. The crack grows, lengthens, and other little cracks spread out from the first crack. Continue watching without approaching or making a sound. A hole appears in the egg. The hole gets bigger, and you see something starting to appear from within the egg. A tiny creature is cracking open the shell, and as you watch, the hole and the cracks become big enough for the little creature to make its way out. What is the creature? The tiny creature fully emerges from the shards of the egg and into the world. You watch it for a while, making its first tiny movements in the wide world outside the egg. Then you notice that an adult, or maybe two adults of its species, are coming to the nest. They are the parents of the little one. They see their young one newly hatched and attend to it. You watch for a little while longer. Then you realize it is time for you to move quietly away and let the parents attend to their young undisturbed. Retreat and look around once more at the beautiful countryside on this spring morning. Now it is time to return to your normal reality, but know that you can come back to this scene in another visualization if you desire. When you are ready, take a deep breath, shake your fingers and toes, and open your eyes to the real world. Right, now I hope you're all okay after that. That's the end of the visualization. Now, what you could think about later is what you saw. What bird or creature did you see hatched? You might want to make some notes. It's always good to make notes after a visualization. And you could, if you wanted to, look up any folklore or symbolism that was attached to what you saw. Obviously, different birds and different creatures have different meanings in folklore and in magic. After you've done any magical work or done a guided visualization, you should ground to make sure you're fully back to reality. And the best way to do that is to have something to eat and drink. If that's not possible, then stamp your feet on the ground or tap hard on the table a few times. Now I'm going to look a little bit later in the month, because this is magic for the month of April and I've really only talked about things at the beginning of April. Now I'm going to go right to the end of April and start to talk about just a little bit about the Floralia. Now, starting on the 28th of April, the Romans celebrated the festival of Floralia for one of their oldest goddesses, Flora, the goddess of flowers. The main focus of the festival was to have fun and do pleasurable things. A lot of Roman festivals were quite serious, and they were about going to the temple and doing quite religious things. But Floralia was really a festival of enjoyment, of having fun. I'm going to read a little short piece from Everyday Magic, and it gives an idea of something you could do to celebrate Floralia, or just to do during the springtime. And it also talks a little bit about English weather folklore. It really is a very short little piece. April the 28th, start of Floralia. The 5-day festival of Flora, goddess of flowers and springtime, celebrated in ancient Rome. Traditional weather lore. Sweet April flower, I'll start that again. Sweet April showers do spring May flowers. And that was from a poem written in 1610. And here's a meditation that you could do over the 5 days of Floralia. Plant or pick a flower, or choose one that's in your garden. Each day, meditate on it for the full 5 days. Well, that's the end of my talk on magic for the month of April. And if you're watching it live and have any questions, you can leave a comment and I'll try to answer them. It can take a little while for comments to appear. Jane says a small turquoise griffin hatched from your egg. That's brilliant. Helen, a blackbird hatched from its egg. Oh yes, I absolutely love blackbirds. I love the song of the blackbird. Hello, Sue, and hello, Jane Winter. Oh right, okay. It doesn't matter that you were late joining. That's absolutely fine. Enjoy the talk. It is recorded, so you can always watch it later. And what I do always say is I do also put all my recordings up on my YouTube channel. I think you can find it as Lucia Staza on my YouTube channel. And it will stay on Facebook, so you can watch it there. Next month, obviously, I'll be talking for magic for the month of May. Does anybody have any questions or anything that they want to mention, or any suggestions about what they'd like me to talk about when I talk about May? I am aware that I didn't talk about May Eve, even though obviously May Eve takes place in April. And I didn't talk about Walpurgis Night either. I actually thought that I'd cover that in May, because it's a really, for pagans, it's a really, May Day and Beltane and May Eve are really big celebrations, and I thought I would cover that in May. But the months don't divide as neatly as you'd like when you're talking about magic for the month, so talking about, I thought it was better just to move that forward. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, but I'm really, thank you everyone for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and hope to see you again next month. Bye.